Hi, everyone. I am Angie Cat, and I am coming on here to do a little presentation for you guys, a little mini class, because we had done a little discussion in our Sisters of the Moon Circle this past month about moon signs, moon astrology, and specifically progressed moon. So there were a lot of questions from people who were just starting to dive into astrology, and I thought I would come on and do a little mini tutorial, just sharing with you some of the things that I've discovered and how it might help you. So, when we talk about astrology, it's just another tool to help you to get to know who you are, what makes you tick, and also to help you to understand others in your life. So, let's dive into this introduction into astrology and the cosmic you, because we're all made of stars, right? And so these are some of the basic terms that I'm going to be discussing in relation to this idea of your moon astrology and your progressed moon. So, first of all, what the heck is astrology? It is not astronomy. Astronomy is the scientific study of the stars and the universe. Astrology is a belief and a study of how the universe, the planets, the stars influence our personality and our lives. It is believed that at the time of our birth, at our specific location and the time, that there is this snapshot of the universe, of the skies, the starry skies, and that this snapshot is your map of who you are. This is called a natal chart. And so the snapshot includes the zodiac, which is the map of where the planets, the sun, and the moon were in position, what position they were in the skies at the time of your birth. They were often in different astrological signs, constellations, and this provides a map of who you are. Okay, so again, that zodiac is that astrological snapshot at the time you were born, and it includes all positions of the sun, the moon, most of the familiar planets, and it's divided into 12 equal parts or 12 houses. So not only are these signs, the sun, the moon, going to be in different astrological signs, but they are going to be in different houses related to those signs. Okay, and we'll get into a little bit of that. And again, I just want to make this known that this is not an in-depth study of astrology. This is my attempt at doing a quick little cheat sheet for you, a little Cliff Notes version, so that you can begin to get some basic ideas about who you are, how you tick, and help you to understand those in your life. So we're going to be looking at your sun sign, moon sign, and rising sign. Your sun sign, most people know that, just even whether you follow astrology or not, this is your personality or your true you. Okay. It's associated, if you follow numerology, it's associated with your heart's desire number. Your moon sign is your emotional and expressive self. And this is how you go about things because it's emotionally driven and that's how you present or express in the world. And this is associated with the expression number in numerology. Your rising sign is also called the ascendant. And if you think about the meaning of that word, it means who we wish to ascend to be. It is our highest self. It's our healthiest self. It's how we present to the world when we are at our best and our healthiest. It's associated with the personality number in numerology. Okay. Now, before we go any further, how do you figure out what your sun, moon, and rising sign are? Well, I'm going to show you that. So let me do a different screen share here. My most favorite website to go to for this is called astro.com. Okay. And if you just type in the URL www.astro.com, you're going to get to this page, The Art of Astrology. And you're going to click on this tile here, charts and calculations. This is where you can do a free astrological chart for yourself. Okay. So you're going to value your privacy. They're not going to sell that to anything. So you click agree, and it's going to come up with three options. Choose the chart drawing ascendant as your first option. And here you're going to be prompted, do you have a user profile? You can set one up if you want, or if you don't, you can just go ahead and enter in your birthday data, and it will display your chart subsequently. Okay. All right, so again, another data privacy notification, which is great. And so this is what you're going to come to. You're going to enter in your birth data. So you can enter in your first name. You can enter in your last name if you want. You can enter in your gender. You can also enter in your birth date. Now, for the purposes of this video being broadcast, I'm going to choose a different birth date than mine. So we're going to make this, what do we want to say? We want to say 23rd of, we'll do May, and we'll do this year, okay? And then this is what really helps if you can find out your birth time. It's usually on your birth certificate. If you don't know, it's okay, you won't have that, and it will still give you a chart, but this will make it really accurate if you do have your birth time. So I'm going to enter in my actual birth time just for the heck of it. So we're going to say 4 p.m., 37 minutes. Okay. And then you can enter in your birth location. This is also vitally important because depending on where you were born, the location, that's going to alter the map of the sky that was seen at your time of birth, right? It's going to be different in the southern hemisphere as it would be in the northern hemisphere. So we're going to say, Cedar Rapids. Okay. So, and it'll pop up, it'll give you, once you start typing in your birth town, it'll pop up for you and you can select that because you'll see here, it's got the longitude and latitude here. Then you click continue. And what's going to happen is it's going to pop up a chart just like this. Now, this may be a bunch of gobbledygook for you, and that's okay. But what you can see here is we've got the 12 astrological signs around here. And then this is how your pie is divided up. And you don't need to know about all of this stuff. What you need is this right here, is this chart. This is going to show you your sun sign, your moon sign, and all the planets, including your North Node and Chiron, which we're not going to get into today. So the most important things you can find out here are your sun sign, in this particular case, for this birth date and location, which is not my birth date or location of birth or time of birth. We're going to go ahead and this for this person, the sun sign is Gemini, the moon sign is Capricorn, and the ascendant is often, let's see, where does it say ascendant? Oh, right here. Ascendant is Libra. Okay. So right here in red, your sun sign is Gemini, ascendant is Libra. So that's the most important thing that you'll need to know about how to create your natal chart, the snapshot at birth. Excuse me. All right. So back to our slides here. All right. So now that we have this information, you've got your natal chart. Now we can start doing a little deeper dive into what that really means. Excuse me. So now we have the 12 signs. We're not going to go into all of those. And these are the 12 signs: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. All right, so you've got your chart, and we're not going to go into all 12 of the signs, but just so you are aware of what the 12 signs are: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Okay, so we had our chart up, and you know where your sun sign is, you know where your moon sign is, and you know where your ascendant or ascendant or rising sign. So let's dive into a little cheat sheet. Each of these signs is associated with an element. And I find this to be easier to really get a sense of the personality of the person when you view it from this way. So let's talk about each one of these elements here. So we'll start with earth elements. So the astrological signs that are associated with the earth element are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Earth element signs, so let's say your sun sign is Taurus, very detail oriented, down to earth, grounded, practical. These are the signs that are also going to be grounded in their bodies. Okay. So, for example, Taurus is a sign that is very much about the sensual. And what I mean by sensual is very much tactile sensing, really interested in things that make them feel good. They're grounded, they tend to be slower moving. So, that's the essence of the earth signs. So, if your sun, moon, or ascendant or rising sign are in the earth element, these are some of the qualities that you have. Okay. So let's just stick with sun sign for right now, or even moon sign, sun and moon sign. So your personality might be earth based, or if your moon sign is in an earth sign, that means that your emotions tend to be more grounded and practical. Okay. So now let's move to the water signs. The water signs are Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer. So think about the element of water. Water is very fluid, it's very imaginative, it's very deep, empathic, emotional. These are the emotional signs. They feel things much more deeply than the other elements do. They are also usually much more intuitive than the other signs. Okay. So if your sun or moon sign is in the water area, if it's a Pisces or Scorpio or Cancer, you're going to feel things more. You're more sensitive, particularly if your moon sign is in one of these signs. You're definitely more sensitive psychically, intuitively, emotionally. Okay. And that's not a bad thing. Okay. These are things to help you get to know who you are. Now, air signs. So in this particular chart that I just pulled, this person, Angela, is an air sign. Okay. Gemini is the sun sign. So Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini are air signs. Think about air and how the quality of air moves. It's always moving, right? There's always a breeze. Sometimes it's more windy than other times. Air signs are witty. They're very social, flitting around to different social engagements. They are sometimes associated with being spacey, but this is just because their brain is off to the next new shiny thing. Always thinking. Very intellectually stimulated. They love a good idea. They love intellectual conversations. And they are also very good listeners. Okay, so again, if your sun sign is in an air sign, that means that you have the qualities, your personality is a quality of air. If your moon sign is in air, that means your emotions tend to take on the qualities of air as well. And the fire signs, this is the last group here: Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So now fire signs are often associated with being hot tempered. And while that may be a little bit of a part of them, the fire signs are very passionate people. They're brave, they're artistic, they're very confident, and they're also very independent. They are not going to wait for the rest of the group to catch up. They're going to blaze that trail. Notice that phrase, we're using a fire reference there. So if your moon sign is in a fire element, that tends to mean that your emotions are more fiery, that you're more independently emotional and you're very confident. If your sun sign is in the fire element, again, this is how your personality is wired. So this can be a really quick and easy cheat sheet to help you to understand those first three signs: sun, moon, and ascendant. Your personality, your emotional self, and who you are at your best, who you're ascending to be. Okay. So then we have the 12 houses. So each of the astrological houses are also associated with specific qualities. So while your sun sign might be in Gemini, this might mean that you're in the first house. And again, you would have to go back to your chart and do a little deeper dive to find out what house that is in. Okay. So let's say the sun is in your second house, okay, of wealth and worth. So that just means that you have an air quality, right? Very intellectual, very stimulated, always thinking about the big ideas, the new ideas in that house of wealth and worth. So your personality is one of really always striving to learn about and latch on to the next big idea of how to make money. You might be the person who's always looking at ways to, monetize who you are and what you do, and also thinking about your abundant self-worth. Okay. So that kind of gives you an idea. Now, let's say you're a fire sign. Let's say you're Sagittarius in the house of wealth and worth. So you might be very brave. You're independent. So you might make a great entrepreneur. You might travel a lot in your job because that's how you generate wealth. But this is also about your fiery self-worth, that you are a lot more confident and you're going to be doing things that are much more adventurous. Okay, so you can kind of see how you can begin to put a lot of these things together. Okay, this can give you a snapshot of who you are as a person. Okay, and like I said, you can go to astro.com, plug in your coordinates and all your information and get your chart and do a little deeper dive. It will give you some additional information should you choose to look that up. Okay. And there's lots of astrologers out there who can also help you to interpret that if you need some help with that. But I really want to go through and talk a little bit about moon sign and progressed moon in particular, because these have been really impactful for me. I know about being my Gemini sun sign, right? But my moon sign tends to influence so much of who I am. And it can also impact the seasons and the time frames that we're moving through. Your sun sign never changes. Your natal moon sign never changes, but the moon is very influential because of the fact that it influences our emotions and our expressiveness. So when we look at moon astrology, your natal moon sign is, as we said, is your emotional and expressive self, how you go about things, and it is associated with your expression number in numerology. But over the course of the year or the month, the moon is always moving as well. It is moving around the zodiac every 2.5 days. So every 2.5 days, the moon is in a different astrological sign, and it can impact the flavor of those couple of days. So what's interesting, and again, take what you will from this information and leave the rest. But for example, if the moon happens to be moving through Aries for 2.5 days, I do find that there's a little bit of a correlation that I find myself to be a little bit more quick-tempered those days. I'm prone to headaches. Think about the ram, Aries, the ram. So I tend to have more headaches during those days, and I tend to maybe get into a little bit more tense conversations with others during those days. So if you're wondering, gosh, wow, these last couple of days, people around me have been argumentative or I'm having headaches or whatever, check the sign that the moon is in, because that can have an impact. Now, what does that mean? It just gives you a heads up to help work with that energy. So if you know that it's moving into these a couple of days of fire element, what can you do to balance out that fire? What are some earth practices or some water practices that can help you to transmute that so that it becomes a little bit more in balance? Okay. Likewise, in moon astrology, not only does the moon move through a different astrological sign every 2.5 days, but we also have new moons and full moons. And these have been really engaged in spiritual traditions for millennia. Native tribes, particularly women, would oftentimes around the new moon go away into their own space, their own tent, and they would rest for 3 days around the new moon. Most of the time, they would also, if they're in harmony with the seasons, this is the time where they would be on their menses. So they would get extra rest. They would have the elder women there to help guide them as they're continuing to move through their phases of womanhood, maiden, mother, crone, or wise woman. They would also teach them esoteric or spiritual skills. They teach them midwife skills, child rearing skills, etc. So the new moon is a lower energy phase, and this is a place where we can set our intentions and tune into our heart's desire. So it's a time of self-care. Now, when you add on astrology to that, every time the new moon happens, check the astrological sign in which the moon is in, because that can give you some reflection ideas. What is the flavor of this new moon? What are the messages of this new moon in that particular astrological sign? If the new moon is in Virgo, for example, Virgo is very much about being at home in the body. So you may be called to reflect upon, what are my health practices that support my physical health and well-being, right? So these are some things that can help you to set new intentions for this next moon cycle. And you set those intentions that can be part of your meditation or prayer practice. And it just lends itself to more presence around who you are and who you want to become. Okay. So this can be part of your sacred traditions or your sacred rituals. The full moon is a time of great celebration. So we're usually at higher energy levels. Seriously, ask a nurse who works in the hospital or in the ER during the time of the full moon. Nobody likes it because everything seems to be a little bit wonky and intense because there's an elevated energy. It's meant to be heightened creativity, a time of celebration, of harvest, traditionally harvesting the intentions that you set at the new moon. Okay, so it's the energy of expediting the manifestation of goals. And this is a perfect time for gratitude rituals. Even if your intentions haven't been met from the new moon, because they are on divine timing, not your timing, this is still an opportunity for you to practice gratitude rituals, gratitude journals, affirmations to harness that manifesting and celebration energy of a full moon. Likewise, layer onto that the astrology. What is the astrological sign that the full moon is in? Are we celebrating the energy, the fire energy of Leo and being a part of a tribe and being able to shine our light? Or is that full moon in Pisces, where we're celebrating our psychic gifts and our sensitivity? Okay, so this can give you an idea. So now, with astrology, knowing that the moon moves into a different astrological sign every 2.5 days, it's of note that your moon sign, let's say your moon sign is in Virgo, when the moon is in, let's say, these next 2 days, the moon is moving into that sign of Virgo, and it's a full moon in Virgo or a new moon in Virgo. That just means that because your natal moon sign is in Virgo, you're going to feel that energy way more intensely than everybody else who does not have their natal moon in Virgo. Make sense? So everybody feels the essence of a new moon in Virgo, but those with a natal moon in Virgo will feel it much more intensely. So that's a real big time for self-care, celebration, and really harnessing your personal moon energy. Okay. So we're diving into a little bit of moon astrology here. So now we can start to track the energy of the moon, the emotional and expressive energy every 2.5 days. Okay. And I don't generally track it myself every 2.5 days. It's just kind of in the back burner, but I definitely pay attention to it around new moons and full moons. And this fuels my sacred practices that I do. It just creates more intentionality and sacredness in my life and a greater sense of connecting to who I am. Now, this is my favorite thing ever. So this is progressed moon. So in a nutshell, there's this algorithm where if the moon is moving into a different astrological sign every 2.5 days, the season that we are currently in our lives can be influenced by what's called a progressed moon, where the moon moves into a new astrological sign every 2.5 years. Okay, so this is how it influences our daily lives. It's kind of the flavor of those couple of days, but the progressed moon can give us a flavor of what am I experiencing or needing to reflect on for these next 2.5 years. Okay, so we really want to pay attention to the astrological house that's traveling in and the sign that it's traveling in, and this can really give you a good flavor of what you can be working on or reflecting on during that time frame. So how do we find our progressed moon calendar? Okay, so we're going to go to that now. So let me share my screen, a different share here. Share. So we're going to go back to our astrological chart here. So now what I encourage you to do is type in this particular URL, and I've got to look at it here because it's a long one. So it's horoscopes.astro-seek.com, and then it's calculate the progressed moon calendar with hyphens in there. Okay. And then we click that. So this is AstroSeek. So this is another website, different than astro.com. It's AstroSeek. Okay. So now here we have where you're going to plug in your information. Okay. So birth date is 23 May. We'll plug in the same time. Birth city, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Okay. So we plug in the natal chart information, the time of birth, the birth city, and then there's a couple of options here. Make sure that you are selecting the progressed planet of the moon. You can't actually get to progressed other planets, but we're just doing moon. Let's stick with something simple here. And then ingresses or lunation cycle, we want into natal houses and zodiac signs. From year. Now, I would encourage you to select a couple of years prior to the current year because it's really fascinating to reflect on where you were, and it's uncanny what you discover about yourself. Okay. House system, I choose Placidus. That's how I was taught. And then we're going to click calculate. And what this is going to do is it's going to come out with a progressed moon calendar. Print this off, do a screenshot or something for you because it's going to show you the progression of this moon for years, okay? But let's look here. So let's see that the progressed moon for this particular individual, it moved into the sign of Scorpio on November 22nd of 2020. And because it moves into a different astrological sign, it will move into the next sign 2.5 years later. In this case, it's March 5th of 2023, where it will move into the next sign of Sagittarius. So now what does this mean? If I look back from November 22nd, 2020 until, and what I'm going through now, what was I experiencing then and still experiencing? So let's go back to our calendar or to our elements, right? So those elements, Scorpio is a water sign. It is emotional. It is very imaginative. It's very psychic and intuitive. Scorpio is also the sign of the scorpion. And so hard exterior, we're wanting to armor up and we're feeling very sensitive. And we've got that stinger where things might irritate us a little bit more. But more so, Scorpio is related to the phoenix. The story of the phoenix is that the phoenix is all about transformation. Things need to die. This phoenix is understanding that, you know what, no longer can I be in this form, in this shape, or doing the same things that I was doing. So I'm going to take my tired old body and I'm going to cast it upon the fire to be disintegrated, to die, and to be reborn. So a Scorpio progressed moon transition is all about, you're going to feel like you're wanting to go into your shell. You're not going to feel as social. You're feeling way more sensitive and emotional, but take heart because this is a time of reflection and self-care and renewal because you're going to be prepared for the next rebirth when the progressed moon moves into Sagittarius. Okay. So if you're wanting to go into a deeper dive, again, think about the elements. So in this particular case, this person is in a water sign until March 5th, and then it's a fire sign. So now it's going to be passionate. It's going to be extroverted. It's going to be all about creating art and creating things and transforming things. And so you're going to be coming out of your shell. Sagittarius is the archer. This is the wise sage who focuses the arrow and makes its target. So that's going to be another time frame for the next 2.5 years, starting in March 5th of 2023, where they're going to move into very much a fire and passionate, get it done, travel, adventurous kind of period. Now, again, you can go through that calendar and see where you're at. Also, you'll notice here houses. So in this particular instance, the Scorpio sign or Scorpio progressed moon was in house number 6, natal house of number 6, and it will be moving, it moved into house number 7 in 2021. So let's take a moment here. I'm going to stop share and we're going to go back to our slides and look at those houses again. Okay, so let me move myself over here. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So if we go back and look at the houses, so if your progressed moon was in house number 6, it was in the house of service. So what does that mean? So if I'm feeling watery and sensitive and wanting to go into my shell and I'm all about rebirth, I am reflecting on how can I be of service to myself in order to prepare myself to be of service to others. Okay, so this is an interesting flavor or additional information on reflection during this time. And then in October, it moved into the house of relationships. So Scorpio progressed moon in the house of relationships may mean that we're feeling a little bit closed off from our relationships. Maybe we're thinking about, I need to reevaluate my relationships. Or maybe it's about relationship to self, okay? But it's very much a sensitive, emotional time. It's very intuitive, but it is also about what needs to be transformed, like the phoenix, and be reborn in that particular house, okay? So this has really been transformational for me because it helps me to understand the season that I'm in. I'll give you a perfect example. I am actually have a progressed moon in Scorpio right now based on my sign. And when it first happened, it was so interesting because I had just moved. I had, changed up everything. I'd gotten out of a relationship. And I was so ready intellectually to really get excited and do some new things in my life. But emotionally, I had no bandwidth, no energy. I was tired. I wanted to be more of a homebody. And it really was at odds with who I am naturally. Once I did my progressed moon chart and I saw that my progressed moon was in the sign of Scorpio, it gave me permission to, goodness, just quit cracking the whip. This is a time for me to go inward and do reflection and think about, how do I want to be reborn again? So lots of things were dying, things about how I viewed myself, how I approached relationships, romantic relationships, all of those things. Who am I, and how do I want to serve in the world? All of those things were up for review and were being transformed. And so I'm still in the crucible, or the cocoon, if you will, and I'm transforming into a butterfly. And that helped me to quit fighting that energy. Because when you fight that energy, it's just going to create more stress and strife. This can help you to navigate your life and give yourself the things that you need to be at your best. Now, what happened prior to Scorpio? Well, that was a progressed moon in Libra, which is all about striking balance and restoring balance to our relationships, to our lives. And that's exactly what I was doing. And that's how I was in a review period with my relationship and my life, my work life. And I made changes. And I made those changes. It was for the better. And then I entered into Scorpio because I was tired from having to make all those changes. It was a lot. And so now this season is all about good work. Now it's time to really allow yourself to restfully surrender completely, because now you're in the final stages of that transformation and rebirth. Okay. So this is what we're talking about when it comes to moon astrology and how it can benefit you in terms of understanding who you are, what season of your life you're in, what things to focus on to continually evolve. We're always evolving. And all of these tools, as I mentioned before, are really here to serve simply as get to know yourself and help manifest the best you possible. And what I mean by that is that sometimes the best you possible is to go into the cocoon, right? And to take care of yourself. It's that balance, it's that ebb and flow between all of the elements that are within us and in the natural world, of which we are a part of. Okay. So hopefully this information will give you some ideas about how you can start to get to know yourself a little better. What do you need? What's your season right now for these next 2.5 years? And again, this is just scratching the surface, but these are some of the things that I have learned that have really had profound impact on my life. And I enjoy talking specifically about moon astrology and teaching people about that. Okay, so again, going back to our moon element, let's review this. So let's say that your natal moon is in a water sign, maybe it's Scorpio. So this is your emotional and expressive self, imaginative, empathic, intuitive. Okay, your progressed moon house. So maybe your progressed moon is in Scorpio, right? Like we just talked about. And Scorpio is the house of sex, intimacy, primal desire, but death and rebirth, just like we talked about with regard to the Phoenix. Scorpio is all about death and rebirth. So if that is where your progressed moon is, don't fight that. Don't fight that process. You're going to feel like you need a lot more rest, that you need to withdraw a little bit more, that you're very sensitive. So self-care is important during this time, because this is the house that it's moving through. And trust that this is just part of the cycle that you're in right now, and pretty soon it's going to move into the next house and the next sign. And your progressed moon calendar chart can help you to map that out so that you can be prepared and give yourself the things you need to be at your best. Okay. So that is it for my slideshow. And I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit more about moon astrology and progressed moon. If you have further questions or you need some additional help with this and doing a progressed moon reading, please reach out to me. I'd love to help you with this. There's lots of great free information out there that you can access as well, but I'm always happy to help. Additionally, I want to share that one of my favorite books is called Astrology of the Moon by Amy Herring. And so this is a really seminal text about moon astrology, your natal moon astrology, and your progressed moon astrology. So I hope this was helpful, and happy moon hunting. And I hope you get to know your cosmic self, because it is a self that is worth falling in love with. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back on another time to talk about another fun spiritual topic. Have a great day.